Hello. You know, there's no situation where you can say not having patience is a good thing or having patience is a bad thing. Patience is always a good thing. Now, I know right away you might not think so. You might think, well, I have to go through this and this to get to point B or to get to point B, but um, unless unforeseen circumstances where you die, you're going to get to point B eventually. It might not be how you planned on getting there, but you'll get there. And it's like when I pled not guilty to a crime I was charged with that I didn't commit, and that's why I pled not guilty. It took 3 years for the court and the state to say I was not guilty, and I went through probation, I went through jail time, I went through a lot to get to that point where the court said, "Oh, we're wrong, you were never guilty," and I could have been out the day um, they charged me if I took the plea, and that would have been a lack of patience. But un, I would have pled guilty to a crime I didn't commit. So um, I wasn't willing to do that, and nobody should be. But they force it on you, and you know, a lack of patience is prevalent throughout society. When people off their elders to get inheritance money because they can't wait for them to go the normal, natural way. That they're in a rush to get that inheritance, and they make it happen a lot quicker. That's a lack of patience, and usually they go to jail for that. You know, they get caught, and someone that is willing to do that to another human being, uh, most 100% of the time, has a lack of patience, and they don't want to wait the 3 years for the government to say they were not guilty. They want it right away. And if you look at a chess game, a high stakes chess game, it's very boring. It's very slow going. In between moves, there's a lot of time, and most people that aren't used to it are like, "Come on, hurry up, move this along," and they lack patience. And in any game, the one with the patience is the one who wins. Because if they just wait for the opponent to mess up and screw up, and that's what the Republicans did to the Democrats. They were patient with lining the court with their people, and they waited for the Democrats to screw up. The Democrats screwed up, and the Republicans got 6 justices on the Supreme Court, which have shaped our whole reality and changed our whole reality for many people. And you know, the the MAGA people, they have no patience, and they wanted Trump to do all the things that he's done in in a quick time. I mean, he's only been in office for a year, and he's done all these things. So they want everything quick, 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 quick. And it's a form of cheating. And most people that cheat have a lack of patience. They don't want to win the right way. But that always comes back to haunt you in the future. Um, Whatever they're doing now is going to come back to haunt them. I mean, all these names that he's putting his name on the Kennedy Center and airports and all that, it's all going to get erased. It's all going to get reversed as soon as he's gone. And and it's just a lot of hyperbole, and it's just a lack of patience. And people that have no money uh, usually have a lack of patience because that's why they play scratch off lottery, because it's an instant no. You scratch it off and you know right away if you won money or you didn't. There's no debating, there's no waiting for a drawing, nothing like that. And that's why scratch off lottery tickets are very popular because they feed into the, the poor people's lack of patience, and they're willing to pay for that. They pay $20 for a scratch-off ticket and win nothing. So or they win the $80 on a $20 ticket. I mean, that's common, but they don't win the 30 million or the 3 million, whatever the ticket the max is. So they bait you. They're like, oh, I made $80, and then they buy three more tickets or four more tickets, and it just feeds into their lack of patience. And that's why sports betting apps and uh, all your poly markets and all that, it's all a lack of patience because you're making a lot of money off of a prediction that they're going to score so many points, and you stand to win so much money if you're right. And it just goes with the territory of lack of patience. You know, People when they go to school, they have a accelerated course study. They could do 4 years in 3 years, and they go for that. But they don't realize they don't. It's not the same. And yes, they're saving a year, but they're lacking the year of education they would have had. And they're doing maybe the same amount of coursework, but they're doing it faster and they're not learning it as well. And they do pay a price for that in the long run. I mean, they might not see it right away, but it shows up in weird ways. Anytime you cheat, it comes back to haunt you. What the Republicans doing now is going to come back to haunt them. Just like Orban in Hungary, all the cheating he did is coming back to haunt them. Owning all the broadcasting stations, the newspapers, it's going to come back to haunt them. And you know, that's why I say that you never benefit from being impatient, and you always benefit from being patient. Uh, and patience is very hard for a lot of people, especially poor people. Rich people are very impatient as well. I mean, they want to buy. They want to buy whatever they want. If they want that car, they want to buy it. They want to go down to the store and pick it up and bring it home. That's what they want to do. They don't want to. They don't want to research it. Think to find out maybe it's not a good car to buy. They're just looking at the looks. The look of a Ferrari or something. And they're like, oh, I like the way that looks. And a lot of people will look at me in that car and be like, yeah, he's a successful guy, and they'll buy the car. But it's just, and then it's funny when you look at those cars like in they're 10 years old or something, you're like, that's an old Ferrari. It's a piece of garbage. Who wants it? I mean, it was the hottest thing on the planet when it was brand new. But 10 years later, it's like, it's a piece of garbage. I wouldn't give you $10 for it. It's a Ferrari, yeah, but it's not new. The electronics in it are not new. It's not up to date, and you're like, oh, there's just a lot of problems with it. So it doesn't withstand the test of time because it's a hot item. It's a hot item. It's got to be now, and that's what a lot of like jewelry is. Jewelry looks really good when you buy it first, but after you wear it for a while and you scratch it up and you dent it and everything else, it's a piece of garbage. And you might have paid a lot of money for that jewelry, and that's why a lot of these celebrities keep them in safes and they don't wear them. They only wear them when they go out to red carpet events and stuff. So it's just they keep it in good condition, and and that's patience. Patience is not wearing them every day and showing them off and being look at my $40,000 Rolex, and stuff like that. They keep it in a safe where nobody can see it, but it's in good condition. And money is like that too. The Madoff made a lot of money off of people that lack patience. They gave him millions and millions of dollars because of his promise that he would get them a return of 20%. And it was all fake. Ponzi schemes are all built on lack of patience. You give so much money, you'll get so much money, and they feed on that crap. They feed on your lack of patience and your inability to see past the get quick scheme. You know, get rich quick schemes are all built on lack of patience. No money down on a house. The commercial ran for how many years, and it's still running. And of course, instead of building up a money for a down payment, if you want to get a house without doing that and save that time to build the down payment, then of course that's the get rich quick scheme, and that's where it doesn't work because none of those schemes work. And you'll have one or two people that did it, and 90,000 people will follow it and not do it, and pay the money to learn how to do it and not do it, and that's why it's a scam. And same with Madoff. He printed out returns on their money and showed them that they were making 20%. And when you're making 20%, you're not going to pull money out. You're not going to say, "Well, I'm going to take it out and put it in this account." And you're going to leave it right where it is. And that's what he needed, and that was the crux of his whole scam, because nobody took the money out. And when the scam fell apart, everybody wanted to pull their money out, and there was no money to pull out. So it wasn't a gradual, it was an all of a sudden, oh shit, I'm screwed. And that's how he got all these people. And, you know, and that's how the president's going to get everybody, because everybody hired him because they're impatient. They wanted all the immigrants gone. They wanted the price of eggs to come down. They wanted all these things from him, and he didn't do any of it. He said he was going to get rid of all the criminals, and now he's going after babies at bus stops, and deporting babies at bus stops. That's not criminals that he said he was going to deport. And, you know, and like I said, how many Israelis have been deported to Israel? And I'm sure there's plenty here that don't belong here, but they're not being deported, are they? But if you're black and brown, you're on the list of being deported. They'll stop you while you're walking down the street. But they never stopped a Jew walking down the street and ask him where his papers, because they just don't do that, and they're just not on the list um, of suspects. And it's just a lack of patience. Uh, People that lack patience, uh, they're dangerous. They're dangerous because they're in a rush. Why did we go into Iran? Uh, Trump was in a rush. He was in a rush to stop people talking about Epstein. And when we went into Iran, nobody's talked about Epstein. And that was the goal, and that was the reason we went into Iran. And of course, the nuclear weapon thing was just a ruse. And Iran's no threat to us, and we had no reason to go in there. And now we look like dumbasses throughout the world stage. China thinks we're dumbasses, which they know we are, and we are. So it's just, I don't know. It's just uh, having patience is always a good thing